No time for intros today, because we need to have a serious conversation about Manchester United. And while I say conversation, I mean rant. We need to have a rant about Manchester United, because do you think Ineos know? Do you think the Glazers know? Do you think the club know we finished 15th last season? Because they're not acting like it. Do you think if Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City had finished 15th last season, they'd be sat here mid-July with one player in, spending 5 weeks on the same player who cost 65 million in a market where Madueke and Gittins and Alanga are going for 55 million? Do you seriously think if any other big ambitious club, top club, had finished 15th, they'd be moving like Manchester United in the market right now? And people will say, Alice, don't be negative. We've got no money. What can we do if we've got no money? What can we do if we haven't sold anyone? Stop being negative. I think we have every right to be negative as Manchester United fans. I think we have every right, because guess what Tottenham have done? They signed Kudus yesterday. They signed Morgan Gibbs-White out of nowhere today. Tottenham hadn't even been linked to Morgan Gibbs-White before today. Within 2 hours of being linked to Morgan Gibbs-White, they've paid up 60 million, they got the deal done. They spent 55 million yesterday and got Kudus done. They paid up 60 million today and got Morgan Gibbs-White done. Forest are now reacting and going in for Wissa. And if Wissa goes to Forest, and Mbeumo is in big, big trouble. And I know I'm going to get comments like, Alice, calm down, we're still early in the window, this time last year we hadn't done that much. But it's frustrating. We didn't finish third, we finished 15th. We're the team that needs more signings than anyone else. And it's cost us. Not winning that Europa League final, Tottenham's ability to spend has cost us. We don't have a lot of money, I'm aware of that. We can't sell anyone, we can't find any buyers for our players. Do you think if Chelsea were in the exact same situation, they would have found buyers for their players? Yes. Any other club in this situation would have been able to sell a few players by now, be able to find buyers. And maybe it's not Ineos' fault. Maybe it's the long-term impact of how the Glazers have run this club so badly that it's impossible to sell our players for good fees and it's impossible to buy them for good fees. And yes, we're taking so long on Mbeumo because once quoted 55 million deal is now going to 65, 70 million deal, and United feel they're being mugged off. But in a window right now where Gittins, Alanga and Madueke are 55 million, I'm not going to complain too much about spending 65 million on Mbeumo. Maybe if we'd have put a 55 plus 5 million bid in for Mbeumo 5 weeks ago, we would have gotten to 60 million before all those other deals happened. But we took so long on Mbeumo, and every week longer we're taking on Mbeumo, we're messing it up. So why has it gone from bad to worse? Because now Forest are in for Wissa, and Brentford will not let Wissa and Mbeumo go in the same window, and Brentford are fed up with us, and if they get an offer for Wissa, they'll just keep Mbeumo and they'll do us over. Or they'll do what Ajax did with Anthony and make Mbeumo £90 million. Mbeumo's fee will not get lowered, it will go up a good £20 million if they sell Wissa. I'm telling you this now. I'm telling you. Now, I'm also kind of hoping that this movement from Tottenham, showing up Ineos, this movement in for Wissa from Forest, could speed United to panicking and paying up 65 million and putting that third bid in. That's what I'm hoping, because I've done video after video and Mbeumo close because we're getting told by so many sources the Mbeumo deal is close. So I'm psychologically thinking, maybe if I do a video about Mbeumo deal falling apart, messing up the Mbeumo deal, we'll click my fingers tomorrow and Mbeumo will be done. Because we keep getting told Mbeumo's close. All these journalists are telling us Mbeumo's agreed, there'll be a medical, it's done, it's close. All these good journalists are telling us this and that about Mbeumo, yeah? All of them are. That it's close, and it's not close. So maybe now it's being reported that the Mbeumo deal could fall apart. The Mbeumo deal, maybe now it will actually be done. Because these journalists don't seem to know anything. Now look, there's still a confidence inside Manchester United they will get Mbeumo done. I still think we're going to sign Bryan Mbeumo, but we are in trouble. We are in trouble, people, and we need to have a rant. We need to have a conversation. And look, people say I'm negative, people say I'm overreacting, people say I'm being dramatic. It's early July, I get that. I'm not one to be negative and overdramatic. I try and be positive about things. I really do. But we finished 15th. We didn't finish third, we finished 15th. Liverpool have signed Wirtz, Frimpong, Kirkes. Manchester City have signed Cherki, Reinders, Aït-Nouri. Arsenal have signed Norgard, which isn't the most exciting deal, but they've also signed Subamende, fantastic deal. They put bids in for Madueke, they're close to signing Gyökeres. You know, you look at Tottenham had signed Kudus and Morgan Gibbs-White, 110 million pounds, 150 million pounds in 24 hours. And we are still here 5 weeks later working on Mbeumo. Do you know how infuriating that is? And look at this here. Here we go. David Ornstein linked him to Tottenham 2 hours before the Here We Go. First link to Tottenham. Tottenham got rejected by Eze. They went and triggered his release clause. And yes, I know it's a release clause, but Cunha had a release clause, and we still took a month to get Cunha over the line. They did it in a day, and maybe they're working behind the scenes. Maybe it didn't get leaked. Maybe Ineos, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all of a sudden tomorrow we get linked to a completely new player, and 2 hours later we get Here We Go. Maybe tomorrow we get linked by Ornstein to, I don't know, Javi Guerrera, and tomorrow we actually sign him. And I could say, you know what, Ineos, I'm sorry, they were working on deals behind the scenes, they weren't leaking it to the media, I like that. Maybe I could say that. But do you think that's going to happen? Like, seriously, do you think Ineos is secretly working on three or four deals right now, and we could get Here We Go out of nowhere in the next week? Do you seriously think? I don't. We've been working on Mbeumo for 5 weeks. We've made it clear after Mbeumo we have to sell players. We're not working on any other deals, and we've got no money. And we can't sell any of our players. Anthony and Real Betis is at standstill. Real Betis made 50 million quid and they're pretending they can't afford Anthony. Jadon Sancho won't lower his wages. Barcelona will pay for any winger but Rashford. We'll only do Rashford on loan. Garnacho only wants a Prem club, and Chelsea, who knows what they're going to do. It's worrying. But this is where it goes from bad to worse. Wissa. Now, if you haven't watched my previous videos, there's reports coming out that Brentford are reluctant to sell Wissa and Mbeumo. And if Wissa was sold before Mbeumo, they might not sell Mbeumo, or Mbeumo's price would go up. Now I'm going to throw you back to another team that lost their manager a few years ago, Ajax. We took Ten Hag from Ajax. We took Lissandro Martinez from Ajax. Ajax also lost Gravenberch, Mazraoui, quite a lot of players in that window, yeah? So Anthony at the beginning of the window was quoted at £45 million, and we wanted Anthony in June. He was quoted at £45 million, but we didn't act on it in June. We were slow. We were being what Man United do, which is slow and competence. And then we panicked, got to the end of the window, went back to Ajax and wanted Anthony. And they said, we sold about 6 players. You've took our manager. We are not selling Anthony. And we offered them 100 million euros, which is £85 million, and they just could not resist that. So they sold him in the end. But Brentford will be in that position. They've lost their manager. They've lost Norgard. They lose Wissa. They're losing, they're going to lose a few players this window. And if Nottingham Forest come in for Wissa, and Nottingham Forest have just made about 115 million off Alanga and Big Gibbs White, Forest have money, they're upset that, and boom. Now, obviously, Nottingham Forest are now backing for Wissa. They made a 25 million bid for him in January. Brentford want 50 million for him. But I'm telling you this now. Forest are going to act quick. They're frustrated. Forest are a proper club. They've lost 2 players. They couldn't help losing Gibbs White. He had a release clause. Do you know what I mean? They're going to act quick. Forest signed Wissa. If Forest signed Wissa, Mbeumo is no longer going to be 65, 70 million. Mbeumo is going to be 80, 90 million. And United can't afford that. If I am Manchester United, I go, shite. We finished 15th. We're not in a position to muck about over 3 or 4 million quid. Let's do it. This is 3 or 4 million quid. When you finish 2nd or 3rd and you've got alternatives, you're in a stronger negotiating position. But when you finish 15th, when you had the 4th lowest amount of goals scored in the Premier League last season, when you've been working on a deal for 5 weeks, I know that Brentford are not going to lower the valuation of Mbeumo. I know they're not. They're not. So we're in a position right now where we can literally take more time, over 2 or 3 million quid, potentially miss out on Mbeumo, or risk having to pay 80, 90 million for them if they sell Wissa. We're in that position. We can either get it done and just give them an extra few million quid and cave, because at the end of the day, Man United are worried about how it looks. Man United are worried about how it looks if they cave now and give Brentford 65, 70 million for Mbeumo. They're worried about how it looks. I'm telling you what now, it would look a lot worse if you spent another week faffing over Mbeumo over 3, 4 million quid, and you've just got 5 million quid for the Alanga sell-on clause, and miss out on him because Wissa goes to Forest, than it would if you just pay up now. I'm telling you this now, Man United. If you're worried about how it looks that you've caved to Brentford's price, it would look a lot worse if you miss out on Mbeumo. It would look 10 times worse if you miss out on Mbeumo. I'm going to tell you that now. Get the deal done, because I'm getting worried. I like to be positive. I like to be patient. It's not completely Ineos' fault. The Glazers have run this club so badly for so long that it's harder for us in the transfer window. We can't sell players. Yes, it's not. We have to sell players to buy players after Mbeumo. We don't have a lot of money. Losing the Europa League has cost us big time, because look at Spurs spending. But look, Amorim, you appointed Amorim knowing he needed 7 or 8 new signings. You could have brought in a manager that played a similar system to Ten Hag that would have got the best out of our squad, and he would have only needed maybe 3 or 4 signings. You appointed Amorim knowing he plays a different style of football to Ten Hag. He uses wing-backs, not full-backs. He uses 10s, not wingers. Midfield 2, not midfield 3. He couldn't be further different from Ten Hag's style, and that's fine. But when you appointed Amorim, you would have known, and Dan Ashworth raised this, that this guy's going to need 300 million spent on him. And if you didn't have 300 million to spend, and if we're as broke as you say we are, why did we spend all that money to get Amorim mid-season when one, we could have got him in the summer when Ten Hag was still available, if we don't have money to back him? Because if you had no money, you should have brought in a manager that was more similar to Eric Ten Hag. Thomas Frank would have been available. He would have picked us over Spurs. Let's be honest. That's all I'm saying. It gone from bad to worse for Man United. It really has. Because Ruben Amorim needs signings. Ruben Amorim has got max 8 Premier League games to make a point, or he could be sacked. And the difference between having those players coming in August by the third game of the season and having those players coming for pre-season is massive when the manager's only got about 8 games before they'll make a decision if it doesn't go well. This is make or break for Amorim. Look, I don't know if we're going to miss out on Mbeumo. I still think we're going to get him. But the longer and longer this goes on, and the closer and closer Wissa gets to a move, it's in trouble. Now, I'm hoping that we've done all this and Mbeumo's closed, followed all these reports that Mbeumo's closed from journalists, that now we're talking about Mbeumo not being close. Now we're talking about Mbeumo not being close. Maybe it will actually happen. Let's hope. But I'm worried. I'm having a rant. I might go live at 10 o'clock tonight. I'll let you know. Thank you for watching. Bye.